Angela, you're calling from the 704.
Yes, Charlotte.
Charlotte. Is that
North Carolina?
That's NC, right?
Yep.
North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina. They have a basketball team there, correct?
Yeah, the Bobcats, who Michael Jordan is now the majority owner of.
Yeah, that just happened this week. And he's got something to prove, huh? I mean, after the last couple of years, he really wants to get that team to the playoffs and to the finals.
Yeah, hopefully it'll work, because last season wasn't too good.
Yeah, well, try being a Knicks fan. No sympathy for anybody when you're a Knicks fan. So you have a question for us. Why don't you go ahead and tell us?
Sure. So I have a company, Black Web Media, and our flagship property is Black Web 2.0. And my main question is about your experience with Weblogs Inc. I really want to know if you think that model will work in the web business like today as it is now, if it needs modifications to actually work, and also if you think it'll work in a vertical or a specific niche like only sports or, in my case, only African-American websites.
Yeah, this is a great question. I get this question a lot. You know, you come up with a business idea. That was 2003, 2004 when we came up with that idea and started executing on it. So basically a series of websites connected together that share common ad sales, a common technology platform, and maybe some best practices for editorial, common design. That's a good idea. The problem today is it's a much more crowded space. So literally when we launched Autoblog and Joystick and Blogging Baby and Gadling and some of these things, we were the first like non-individual blog, like not an individual's personal blog, to actually come out. So Gizmodo was the first gadget blog and Gadget was the second. Autoblog was the first automotive blog of note, I guess. Jalopnik was the second. So it wasn't as crowded. Now it's much more crowded, so I think you have to pick a niche and do it really well. And so I think, sure, picking a demographic to go after and hitting it hard is great. You have to be really willing to invest money and go slow. These are like hot coal businesses. You have to like really build up the hot embers, when that basically means writing talent, brand, readers. It takes a while. I think everybody wants it to happen overnight, and it's very difficult to do as the industry becomes more mature. What do you think?
Did it really matter about the network, though? Wasn't it more of like a hit business in the sense like you guys had Gadget, right?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that way, way bigger than any of the other stuff?
Yes and no. It was definitely the Halo brand,
right.
And we definitely built things off of it. Little known fact, Autoblog was actually making more money than Engadget. So on a revenue basis, Autoblog was the #1 blog, and then on a traffic basis, clearly Engadget. But it wasn't. Engadget was maybe 30 or 40% bigger than the next sort of Joystick.
Right. Well, I was just in that sense, like if you're going to start something new, why not just focus on one thing? Like, why start the network right away? Start the network once you have something that's like already
high quality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to invest in like having 10, 15, 20 blogs when you can just start to get going and see if there's any traction at all in that niche. If you can't sell any advertising on one blog, then probably not going to sell on 10.
It makes a good point. It really depends on how many resources you have and how much experience you have. Is this your first publishing endeavor, or have you been in the publishing business for 20 years?
No, this is my first publishing endeavor, but I've worked in the internet industry for a lot of other .coms, mainly ones that are owned by IAC.
Oh, really?
But we started our main site, Black Web 2.0, in 2007,
right? And
we're just now starting to roll out other websites.
Yeah, so it's you can. One of the problems people make was there was a company called B5 Media, which aspired to be like a Weblogs Inc. or Gawker, and they said, we're going to do Gawker and Weblogs have a blog about celebrities and a blog about cars. Therefore, we're going to do a blog about every car and a blog about each celebrity. So they did the Britney Spears blog or blogging, whoever, and they went too niche. And none of those things were compelling enough for anybody to ever go to them. What you really have to do is learn how to connect with people and write stories that people are willing to retweet. This was always my benchmark for a great writer. If people were so compelled by a story that they felt the need to email it to somebody, instant message it to somebody, comment. That's a story of impact. So what I would tell you is, forget about the big architecture of the network and how many blogs you're going to have, and start with that. Can you write a story that gets retweeted 10 times? And then once you get one that can be retweeted 10 times, can you do it 20 times? Can you get a page on the can you get a story on the front page of Dig? And that's not all stories have to be on the front page of Dig. Not all stories have to be retweeted. But that was what made Engadget and Autoblog and those places special, was that they came up with really good ideas, the writers that we found, to make editorial you couldn't ignore. It had impact. It made people do something. So really start thinking about it on a per post basis and on a per writer basis. A lot of people think it was because we had 20 blogs all linking to each other and it made an SEO, or we would introduce joystick to the readers of Autoblog and Engadget, but it was actually much more granular than that. It was the writers. We found great writers who were passionate and who could come up with these stories that, again, were fascinating. That was the word we used internally. It's got to be fascinating, and fascinating means you would share it socially. We got rid of the writers who were just reblogging and weren't worth it. You're paying one writer $10 a blog post, another one $10 a blog post. One of them gets retweeted 7 times. One of them never gets retweeted. One of them gets 18 comments per story. The other one gets 3. Those are the way you should be making the decisions as to which one to go with. Tyler, you have any insights?
I thought this was going to be, I think it is a good question, but I selected this question as interesting because we don't get back much on your background on blogging networks. And I think the point that I was hoping would evolve out of this was the fact that different business models evolve over time. Blogging network, what they were 5 years ago, it's not the same atmosphere online, that it's not the same opportunity that it was when you were doing it.
It's absolutely possible for somebody to make a blog better than Engadget and Gizmodo right now, or a site that's a better electronic site, but it will be hard to displace those, and it'll be hard to get people's attention from those. I like to find a beach that not so many people are surfing on. Maybe find a place where there's an opportunity to innovate in a way, in terms of the medium that hasn't been found by everybody, and the tide's coming in, so the waves get better and better. As opposed to the beach you're on right now, which is a very crowded beach. Maybe there's something in mobile, for mobile news, something, if I thought about this, if I was going to do Weblogs Inc. again, there were 2 different ways I would do it. I would do a Weblogs Inc. of Twitter, 140 posts, and a Weblogs Inc. of blogs. Well, guess what? That's what This Week In is. That's what I'm doing right now. With This Week In is the Weblogs Inc. of streaming shows, and I got a CEO for it, and we're basically doing the same topics, but just in this format. So
I think it also matters just picking something you care about. Like, what are you not getting out there? Like, what is the kind of blogs that you think are missing and that you're personally interested in doing? I think sometimes it becomes a little easy to, or it looks like it's easy to just identify niches that are not already filled that you don't really truly care about. But then, are you going to do a good job? Like, all the posts, for example, on Signal versus Noise, which is our blog, we have 110,000 RSS readers. Like, none of that stuff matters. Everything that matters is how we get traffic to this blog is by writing something when we're truly passionate about it. When we're really fired up and we have an angle in the story, and that's going to get all the traffic. Like, all the sort of filler in between is sort of, okay, you get something going, but none of it would work without that passion about the single topic you care about.
It's a really good point about passion. I tend to write my email newsletter when I'm either extremely pissed off about something, like Keiretsu Forum charging people, or Facebook, ripping apart the privacy of their user base, or I'm absolutely in love with something and I can't not write about it because I just think Google Buzz, it was so brilliantly executed, even though some people might disagree, or some other thing that I'm just absolutely in love with. And truth be told, Jason Fried and I have gotten into it on the Signal to Noise blog. I've written things that I'm passionate about hard work, and then he wrote one thing writing back. I said fire the good people, only keep the great people in your company. He wrote back fire the workaholics.
Yeah, that was actually my
was that yours? Yeah, so that was a great, I thought it was Jason's, but back and forth. We had 2 people, probably not totally dissimilar in terms of who they are, but maybe they just found something they're both passionate about a different way. Or they're just link baiting.
Yeah, I think, though, being passionate about the topics to the point where you can't not write the story. Like so the weblog becomes an outlet for the stories you can't not write. Like then there might be just some work that's just keeping it going, keeping people interested, but it's such a hit business. Yeah. It's such a hit story business that's really what you got to be focused on. Which is just, it's hard to be focused on hits for like 10 sites, like to get going.
Very hard, yeah. Yeah, I think people also get caught up in the number of posts and keeping up with the Joneses and covering everything, and that's the big trap, is when you try to cover every story and you think you have to be a completist and I've got to cover every single gadget that's released. You know, that's Gizmodo and Engadget's job now. To compete with them, you have to zig where they zag. You would have to do something that they haven't thought of yet. Maybe they don't actually, use the products and do incredibly long reviews. So instead of doing 20 posts a day, you do one where you actually use the product under a stress test for 24 hours and, really try to find a bullet pointed list of the 10 best things, 10 worst things, or the 100 best things, 100 worst things, something really comprehensive. Again, passion and fascinating. I think these are two very important words for your business.
Awesome. Thank you for answering the question. That was great. Looking forward to implementing some of those ideas. Jason, I wanted to see if we could invite you to a conference that we're having in May in D.C. called the New Media Entrepreneurship Conference.
Okay. Tyler's gig. So Tyler at Mahalo, he handles all the scheduling. I did take the year off from speaking gigs, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it because I got a kid. But I'll try. You seem not incredibly aggressive about your project, so I am going to give you a prescription. I think you need to watch Black Hawk Down this weekend, which is just nonstop mayhem from start to finish. Then I would like you to watch a movie called The Mission, Robert De Niro. And then I would like you to get Gladiator and just watch the fight scenes. You fast forward through everything else. And just the fight scenes. You can watch the other two movies, the whole movies, because they're very inspirational. Gladiator, just compress it down to the fight scenes, and then you'll come back into next week with a little bit more aggression and passion to go crush this. But good job, and we will. You've been a fan of the show for a long time, or is this the first time you're watching?
Since your first episode.
Oh, really? Wow,
yeah, absolutely.
40 episodes.
It's awesome.
Thanks, I appreciate that. We will talk to you soon, and stay in touch. Everybody out there, check out BlackWeb20, the number 2, the number 0, and also twitter.com/BlackWeb20. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.